Hello, passengers, co-pilots, shotgun callers, blunderbuss bellowers, and midnight riders. Welcome to another episode of Full Moon Empty Road. As always, I'm Jeremy, and I'll be your driver tonight. Hope everybody had a great week, and I hope you're ready for another road trip. Tonight, we're going to be looking at 4 different stops. I've been wanting to do another episode of the Dark Words, Dark Things episodes, or the segments. And over the weeks, it took me to write the last episode, the one that took, seems like 3 weeks to come out. I kind of settled on demonic possessions. So get in, buckle up, grab the rock salt, and let's ride. We have work to do. Our first stop brings us to Erling, Iowa. And the basis of this story revolves around Anna Eklund. And after a little bit of digging through the research that I did on this, I found out that Anna's real name was Emma Schmidt. Emma was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin on March 23rd of 1882. Her case of possession is one of the most heavily documented cases in history, including a story in a 1936 issue of Time magazine. Though various published sources state that Emma Schmidt was born in Milwaukee on March 23rd of 1882 and raised in a Catholic household in Marathon, Wisconsin, this biography is problematic because it makes Emma the daughter of Edward Schmidt. This contradicted both published and unpublished accounts of Emma's purported possession and exorcism, which state that her father's name was Jacob. If this information is correct, the true identity of Emma Schmidt, as per records found on Ancestry.com, may be Hulda Emma Schmidt, born July 3rd of 1882 in Thurgau, Switzerland, to Jacob and Anna Schmidt, who subsequently emigrated to Wisconsin in 1884. This Emma Schmidt was one of 9 children and died June 23rd of 1964 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There are some oddities to the story of her life, however. According to Wisconsin birth records, both of Schmidt's parents were German immigrants. Some sources contradict the narrative that she was raised in Marathon, Wisconsin. The unpublished Bunce manuscript states Reisinger exorcised Schmidt in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the Bunce manuscript states that Emma Schmidt, known as Mary X, met Reisinger in New York when Emma Schmidt was 16, around 1898. An article in the Des Moines Register from September 23rd of 1928 stated, relatives living near here are thought to have prevailed upon the Reverend Joseph Steiger, pastor of St. Joseph's Church, to bring the woman to Erling from an eastern city for the ritual. This suggests that Emma Schmidt was from the U.S. East Coast and not Wisconsin. She reportedly began exhibiting signs of possession during her adolescence, demonstrating revulsion to holy objects, disturbed thoughts, and the inability to enter churches. Eklund, or Schmidt, also began to take part in unspeakable sexual acts. According to an account published in 1935, the believed source of Eklund's possession was her Aunt Mina, a reputed local witch who placed spells on herbs for food she prepared. Mina was purportedly also a lover of Eklund's father. Now let's move on to her actual exorcism. On June 18th of 1912, Eklund underwent an exorcism by Father Theophilus Reisinger, a Capuchin priest originally from Bavaria, Germany, entrusted by Bishop Thomas Dunn of Des Moines, Iowa. Reisinger had been a monk at the community of St. Anthony's in Marathon, Wisconsin. Little was documented concerning the initial exorcism. However, Eklund was not consulted for over 2 decades after the 1912 exorcism. In the summer of 1928, Reisinger was again consulted to perform a second exorcism on Eklund. Father Joseph Steiger of Erling, Iowa, a friend of Reisinger, suggested the exorcism be undertaken at a convent owned by the Franciscan sisters in Erling. Eklund was taken to the convent on August 17th of 1928 and reportedly exhibited numerous symptoms, including falling into fits of rage over food that had been sprinkled with holy water and hissing like a cat. With the help of the Franciscan sisters of the convent, the exorcism began on August 18th. The exorcism was reportedly violent, with Eklund levitating, howling, and hanging from the frame of the doorway. The first session lasted until August 26th, so it started on the 18th, ended on the 26th. A second session occurred between September 13th and September 20th, followed by a final 8-day session that lasted from December 15th to December 23rd of 1928. The extensive exorcism resulted in deterioration of Eklund's body, as she refused to consume food, also vomiting foul debris and what appeared to be tobacco leaves. Her head, lips, and face reportedly swelled, and she also was able to speak in multiple languages unknown to her, that were previously unknown to her. The exorcism was reportedly so grueling and Eklund's behavior so violent that several nuns in the Franciscan order asked to be relocated to a different convent. And I definitely can't say I blame them on that. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to go through an exorcism anyway, whether it be performed on me or me helping someone do that. Not that I'm qualified for that, but I definitely understand. Like, all right, we need to be put somewhere else. This was a little bit too much. Anyway, Eklund was believed to be possessed by Judas Iscariot, as well as Jacob, her own father, who had cursed her with the help of his lover, her Aunt Mina, for refusing her incestuous sexual advances during her adolescence. During the exorcisms, Eklund also spoke in a high falsetto voice, which Reisinger interpreted as the voice of her Aunt Mina. On December 23rd, the final day of the exorcism, Father Reisinger commanded the demons in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary, to depart to hell. Eklund collapsed on her bed and began to shriek, "Beelzebub, Judas, Jacob, Mina," followed by "Hell, hell, hell." She opened her eyes and then spoke in her own voice, saying, "My Jesus, mercy, praise be Jesus Christ." Reisinger's exorcism was reportedly successful, and Eklund only exhibited milder and quite manageable possessions after it. Her true identity was kept protected from the public in written accounts. Anna Eklund died on July 23rd of 1941 at age 59, or if it was Hulda Emmett Schmidt, on June 23rd of 1964 at age 81, excuse me. Her story has also made it into pop culture. In 2016, a fictionalized British-produced film entitled The Exorcism of Anna Eklund was released, documenting her possession and exorcism. And I've seen that listed on like different streaming sites and stuff, and I keep meaning to give it a try, but I didn't realize, when I had seen that listed, I didn't realize it was based on a real case. So I may need to sit down and check that out at some point. Probably would have done that this week if it was a lot like, if Anna Eklund's story was a lot like the two in the middle here that I'm going into. There's a couple of these on here that didn't have a lot of information, but Eklund's definitely had plenty. Anyway, Karl Vogel, a theologian, wrote an account of the possession in German titled Begone. Let me start that over. Karl Vogel, a theologian, wrote an account of the possession in German titled Begone Satan, in 1935, using the pseudonym Anna Eklund. According to Francis Young, a theology scholar, elements of the account published by Vogel were repeated in a written account of Robbie Mannheim in Mount Rainier, Maryland in 1949 by Jesuit priests. Young views the publication of Eklund's case as integral and exemplifying the American exorcism. And we've actually got something about Robbie Mannheim. I didn't realize this at the time, I guess, since this one was the first one I wrote on and the other one was later in the episode. But We've actually got something coming up that's going to be dealing with an individual named Robbie Mannheim. So that's kind of cool how that kind of ties in. Which, I mean, it ties in by, it sounds like one of them was fabricated using Anna's story. Anyway, let me know what you think of Emma's story. And just reach out to me. Let me know what you think. Our second stop takes us into New Mexico. Now, let me start off by saying 3 things regarding this exorcism. As it were. First, this was in colonial times, 1764 to be exact. Second, researching this didn't bring up a whole lot of information, so this section will be fairly brief. And third, when I looked at when I did my research on this sounded so much more, for one of the cases, so much more like postpartum depression rather than a demonic possession. Which, I mean, those kind of sound similar. And I'm not making a lot of postpartum depression. That's, but they do kind of sound alike. Anywho, just about the only information I could find on this was a quick rundown from the website Mental Floss. So I'm going to kind of paraphrase from them for the story here. So back in January of 1764, and that was almost 260 years ago, a letter was written to the governor of New Mexico by Juan Toledo, second cousin to Johnny Utah. And that's a joke. In this letter, Toledo described a number of exorcisms he performed in what was then a Spanish colony. The letter describes how problems began in November of 1763 with a woman named Maria Trujillo. Maria was quoted as being given to great sadness of an extreme nature after giving birth and could not be amused by the diversions of the fiesta. Right there. Postpartum depression is what that sounds like. We actually went through a little bit of that with Anna after Kimber was born, if I remember correctly. I know there was some difficulties here and there, but like nothing major. But I understand the whole. It makes sense that after birth she was given to great sadness of an extreme nature, as they described it. But I mean, that's kind of part of it for some people. It happens. These days, this of course could be explained as postpartum depression, but Toledo saw this as a sign of demonic possession. He is further quoted as saying she remained in her state of melancholy until mid-December, when she fainted after prayers. Awakened. He's further quoted as saying she remained in her state of melancholy until mid-December, when she fainted after prayers, awakened, and proceeded to exhaust herself with unnatural strength. Toledo performed an exorcism on December 18th. Now, Maria was not the only person mentioned in Trujillo's letter that showed signs of possession. A woman named Francisca Barella heard pig noises where she could see no pigs, and experienced assorted shudders, tingling sensations, seizures, and an overwhelming sense of dread she couldn't explain. He goes on to say that at the sight of him, Barella became violent, turned gray, and mimicked the sound of pigs, cows, horned and spotted owls, and other animals. I mean, maybe she's just weird. That doesn't mean she's possessed, Toledo exorcised her too, and during the ritual, Barella supposedly insulted him, attacked his lineage, howled, and hurled a shoe at somebody. All told, Toledo performed exorcisms on 5 women and 1 man before he finally decided the outbreak of possession, which he blamed on witchcraft, had ended. So, that is the exorcism of the New Mexico colony of 1740, something. I don't remember the date. 1746? 1763. I can't read. So, let me know what you think. Our third stop brings us to Miami, Florida, and the story of a 16-year-old girl named Gina. This took place back in 1991, and it was televised on an episode of 2020, I believe, or maybe someone from 2020 had a hand in it. Maybe it was ABC News. Anywho, this is another one of those that, so just a little bit of a story. So the Exorcism of Gina is apparently also the title of a Real Housewives episode. So there was a lot of navigation to do during my research, and this was another one that I think I actually had to kind of pull the information from Mental Floss and somewhere else. Honestly, I can't remember, but yeah, most of it was about, or maybe it was straight, or Newsweek, I think is what it was. It was from Newsweek. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of information out there. So one of the things I actually did is, and this, occasionally I'll get on YouTube and listen to like a documentary to kind of get, figure out where I want to go with whatever it is I'm doing. But this time I couldn't really find much on it. And as I was coming home from work Friday, I was like, you know what? Let me stop listening to this podcast I'm listening to, which is currently the Lights Out podcast, which very great podcast, really enjoyable so far. And I was like, so let me look up on Spotify and see if I can find anything about the Exorcism of Gina. So I kind of went digging through Spotify's listings and to see if anything was on there, and I found 2. And I can't remember the names of either of them. The first one I stopped on, and this is more why I can't remember the name on it, because I gave it about 5 minutes of listening, and it honestly just sounded like a guy who was trying to be Bob Saget when Bob Saget wasn't Danny Tanner. Bob Saget, God rest his soul, but if you ever saw his stand-up, it was literally, hey, watch, guys, Danny Tanner's about to say a bad word, and I mean, like, I don't have a problem with foul language, I'm actually pretty foul-mouthed myself, but I keep it to as much of a minimum as I can on here, because I do have, my son listens to my episodes, and a friend of mine's daughter listens to it. I mean, apparently both of them keep pretty well on it and follow it, and I'll go to work and I'll hear, she listened to your episode this weekend or yesterday or whatever. So I try to keep it pretty mild. But these guys were just like, well, one of them in particular was just like, watch how many times I can drop an F-bomb in 20 seconds. I mean, it was, like I say, I don't have any problem with swearing, but there's a limit. Calm down. It doesn't make you sound cool. Just settle down. Anywho, so I made it 5 minutes into that, and I was like, yeah, we're going to something else. And so I jumped ship to a different one, and I can't remember its name either. But they actually had some information on there that when I was looking through everything, some of their information they had I couldn't find, but unfortunately I can't remember who that was. I may just look at it real quick. Let's see here. I don't want to not credit somebody. Peninsula Obscura. And that was actually who I found. I was like, hey, I didn't know that from what I've read so far, or I didn't know that part that I've read so far. So that was nice, and kind of finding a way to wing that into, not outright rip them off or anything, but just small little details here and there. Anywho, this segment, in terms, we're going to get back to the Exorcism of Gina. I just wanted to make mention of that. The segment that was aired on live TV, on TV, was it featured a priest known in the episode as Father A. Father A performed the exorcism on Gina, a 16-year-old girl who church officials that pushed for the exorcism believed was plagued by demonic forces. One of the consultants believed televising the event would, quote, bring hope to those who may be afflicted. However, others believed it to be exploitive, and that, quote, televising this was indefensible, and to sprinkle holy water over serious and complex problems is to trivialize them and ensure that they continue. According to Newsweek, the ceremony itself seemed at times like little more than the gratuitous torment of a deeply disturbed young girl. Strapped to a chair, she barked and babbled gibberish like Sanka Dali and Booga, like Booga Booga, while Father A pressed a cross to her face, saying, you want pain? I'll give you pain. The exorcism lasted 6 hours, and once it was complete, Gina was sent home. Unfortunately, that didn't last long, and mere days after the exorcism, Gina was hospitalized and given antipsychotic medication. She was treated and released. Warren Schlanger, Gina's psychiatrist at Miami Children's Hospital before and after the exorcism, said the ceremony was a significant risk to her health. If part of her delusion is that she is possessed, it just might confirm that delusion. And unfortunately, I know that was maybe 2 minutes worth of information. That was really all I could find on the Exorcism of Gina. So let me know what you think. That might have been a minute worth of information, but like I say, there wasn't a lot on there that actually discussed the exorcism, as opposed to it discussing, like, I think it was Barbara Walters that had a hand in it, and Geraldo. Hey, y'all remember Geraldo? But yeah, so that was really all I could find. So the good news of that is we are on our last segment of this episode, but there's plenty of more information, because for our fourth and final destination, we come to Cottage City, Maryland. And for our last stop, we'll be looking at the Exorcism of Roland Doe, an exorcism turned blockbuster film known by just about everybody these days. The exorcism took place in the late 1940s. The Roman Catholic Church performed a series of exorcisms on an anonymous boy documented under the pseudonym Roland Doe, or, as mentioned in that first segment, Robbie Mannheim. The 14-year-old boy was the alleged victim of demonic possession, and the events were recorded by the attending priest Raymond J. Bishop. In mid-1949, several newspaper articles printed anonymous reports of an alleged possession and exorcism. The source for these reports is thought to be the family's former pastor, Luther Miles Scholes. According to one account, a total of 48 people witnessed this exorcism, 9 of them Jesuit priests. Jesuit priest Father Walter H. Halloran was one of the last surviving eyewitnesses of the events and participated in the exorcism. Allen wrote that a diary kept by attending priest Father Raymond J. Bishop detailed the exorcism. According to Allen, Halloran also expressed his skepticism about potential paranormal events even before his death. When asked in an interview to make a statement verifying that the boy had actually been demonically possessed, Halloran responded saying, "No, I can't go on record. I never made an absolute statement about the things because I didn't feel I was qualified." Roland was born into a German Lutheran family. During the 1940s, the family lived in Cottage City, Maryland. According to Allen, Roland was an only child and depended upon adults in his household for playmates, primarily his Aunt Harriet. His aunt, which, if you're not from the South, I'm saying aunt. His aunt, who was a spiritualist, introduced Roland to the Ouija board, where he expressed interest in it. According to Thomas B. Allen, after Aunt Harriet's death, the family experienced strange noises, furniture moving on its own of its own accord, and ordinary objects such as vases flying or levitating when the boy was nearby. Or vases. The family turned to their Lutheran pastor, Luther Miles Scholes, for help. Long interested in parapsychology, Scholes arranged for the boy to spend a night in his home in order to observe him. When psychologist Joseph Banks Ryan learned that Scholes claimed he witnessed household objects and furniture seemingly moving by themselves, Ryan wondered if Scholes unconsciously exaggerated some of the facts. Scholes advised the boy's parents to see a Catholic priest. According to the traditional story, the boy then underwent a number of exorcisms. Edward Hughes, a Roman Catholic priest, conducted an exorcism on Roland at Georgetown University Hospital, a Jesuit institution. During the exorcism, the boy allegedly slipped one of his hands out of the restraints, broke a bed spring from under the mattress, and used it as an impromptu weapon, slashing the priest's arms and resulting in the exorcism ritual being halted. The family traveled to St. Louis, where Roland's cousin contacted one of his professors at St. Louis University. Bishop, who in turn spoke to William S. Bowden, an associate of College Church, the family traveled to St. Louis, where Roland's cousin contacted one of his professors at St. Louis University. Bishop, who in turn spoke to William S. Bowden, an associate of College Church. Together, both priests visited Roland in his relative's home, where they allegedly observed a shaking bed, flying objects, and the boy speaking in a guttural voice and exhibiting an aversion to anything sacred. Bowden was granted permission from the Archbishop to perform another exorcism. The exorcism took place at the Alexian Brothers Hospital in South St. Louis, Missouri, which was changed to South City Hospital. Before the next exorcism ritual began, another priest, Walter Halloran, was called to the psychiatric wing of the hospital, where he was asked to assist Bowden. William Van Roo, a third Jesuit priest, was also there to assist. Halloran stated that during this scene, words such as evil and hell, along with other various marks, appeared on the teenager's body. Allegedly, during the Litany of the Saints portion of the exorcism ritual, the boy's mattress began to shake. Moreover, Roland broke Halloran's nose during the process. Halloran told a reporter that after the rite was over, the anonymous subject of the exorcism went on to lead a rather ordinary life. In his 1993 book, Possessed, The True Story of an Exorcism, author Thomas B. Allen offered the consensus of today's experts that Robbie was just a deeply disturbed boy, nothing supernatural about him. Author Mark Opsosnick, that's a weird name. Sorry for the pauses there. Author Mark Opsosnick questioned many of the supernatural claims associated with this story, proposing that Roland Doe was simply a spoiled, disturbed bully who threw deliberate tantrums to get the attention or to get out of school. Good Lord, here we go again. Author Mark Opsosnick questioned many of the supernatural claims associated with this story, proposing that Roland Doe was simply a spoiled, disturbed bully who threw deliberate tantrums to get attention or to get out of school. Opsosnick reports that Halloran, who was present at the exorcism, never heard the boy's voice change, and he thought the boy merely mimicked Latin words he heard clergymen say, rather than gaining the sudden ability to speak Latin. Opsosnick reported that when marks were found on the boy's body, Halloran failed to check the boy's fingernails to see if he had made the marks himself. Opsosnick also questioned the story of Hugh's attempts to exorcise the boy and his subsequent injuries, saying he could find no evidence that such an episode had actually occurred. During his investigation, Opsosnick discovered the exorcism did not take place at 3210 Bunker Hill Road in Mount Rainier, Maryland. The boy never lived in Mount Rainier. The boy's home was in Cottage City, Maryland. Much of the commonly accepted information about the story is based on hearsay, is not documented, and was never fact-checked. There is no evidence Father E. Albert Hughes visited the boy's home, had him admitted to Georgetown Hospital, requested that the boy be restrained at the hospital, attempted an exorcism of the boy at Georgetown Hospital, or was injured by the boy during an exorcism, or at any other time beyond that. There is ample evidence refuting claims that Father Hughes suffered an emotional breakdown and disappeared from the Cottage City community. In pop culture, the exorcism case inspired the 1971 novel The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty, which in turn was adapted into the 1973 horror film of the same title. The case also inspired the 2000 movie Possessed, which is said to be closer to the story in Allen's book. A documentary was made of the case titled The Grip of Evil. Another documentary film was made in 2010 titled The Haunted Boy, The Secret Diary of the Exorcist, where a group of investigators traveled to the location in question and uncovered the diary that is said to be kept by William S. Bowdern. And finally, in December of 2021, the Skeptical Inquirer and The Guardian reported the purported true identity of Roland Doe / Robbie Mannheim as Ronald Edwin Hunkler, born June 1st of 1935 and passed away May 10th of 2020. So, that is 4 exorcisms that, I guess at this point, supposedly took place in America. I guess I should say 4 supposed exorcisms that took place in America. So, let me know what you guys thought of the episode, and thank you so much for stopping in and listening today. This is actually a longer episode than usual, which is kind of nice. I was kind of only doing like 15-minute episodes there for a few, but, you know, I've been wanting to, like I said at the start of the episode, wanted to add to the Dark Words, Dark Things segment. But we're going to go ahead and wind down the episode and call it a stop here shortly. I do want to mention that you can follow me on Facebook at FMER Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at FMER Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at FullMoonEmptyRD. And you can follow me on TikTok at FullMoonEmptyRoad. If you would like to suggest topics for an episode, you can reach me on either one of those platforms, or you can drop me a line at fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com. And one thing I wanted to mention, I have started a merchandise store, a merch store. And I'm trying to get it pulled up here so I can give you So, started a merch store with Bonfire. And it is bonfire.com/store/full-moon-empty-road. I've also got the link posted on all of my social media accounts, so you can go and find it there. We've got just a classic shirt. I'm calling it the Full Moon Empty Road Classic. It is I've got 4, I think, different pieces of clothing with it. There is what's called the Premium Unisex Tee. It's available in gray. There is a pullover hoodie that is available in gray and like heather blue or heather gray, something like that. A crew neck sweatshirt that is available in gray and I think black, or maybe another kind of navy blue kind of thing. And there is also another t-shirt that's available in, I think, black and gray. But they all have, up on the left side, upper part of the shirt, says Full Moon Empty Road on the front, and on the back it's got the podcast logo. So if you'd be interested in a shirt, go to, again, bonfire.com/store/full-moon-empty-road. Get a shirt. Help out the channel. But, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. I've been talking about that for a while, and it took me, honestly, I sat down in about 10 minutes and kind of figured out what I wanted to use and what my first design wanted to be. So I was like, you know what, I need to sit down and look at this, because I keep talking about doing it, but I'm never actually doing it. So let's try it. And here we are. It's live now. So, and it does drop ship orders. So all you have to do is just, it'll get shipped after you order it, just like anything like you'd get from like Amazon or something. Anywho, that is all for today. And again, I appreciate everybody stopping in. Go follow me on the mentioned social medias. Go buy a shirt. I may look at making hats soon too. Maybe some hats or some mugs or something, if I can do that with Bonfire. Anyway, thanks again, guys, and let's go home.